Good evening out there, Commanders, and welcome back to Algorab AM. I am your host, Commander IFlippaDaSwitch, and this is your one-stop shop for everything that you need to know in the great wide universe of Elite, even space games in general, and just what's going on out there in the verse. So let's start off with, man, it is great to be back. I do have to tip my hat to my co-pilot, and at this point I think I can just say co-host, Commander Monohive, for holding down the fort while I was gone. Real life obligations took me out of my ability to provide the show for y'all, and with everything going on, initially he was like, yeah, I can take care of this, no problem. And then, things got elongated, if you will, time frame wise, and he really stepped up and held down the fort, and in my opinion, did a great job. If you think that Mono did a good job as the host, y'all need to come on over to the Algorab AM Discord and just tell him what's up and tell him thanks, because I think he did great. Not only is the man a audio technical wizard, but got a pretty good voice for radio. So there's that as well. Now, what has been going on since I have returned? Well, I dove headlong back into Elite because the whole time I was gone, all I could think about was the things that I wanted to do, right? I wanted to fly a spaceship. I wanted to get back out there and really set on the goal that I had of getting out to Colonia and kind of causing a ruckus. And that's what I'm currently doing. I decided that in the vein of living on the wild side, I'm going to be supporting an anarchy faction out there to try and spread a little discord, if you will, out in the Colonia region. So if you see a python flying around, lasers flaring, freaking just a wake of destruction behind me, along with, all kinds of just other crimey-timey type stuff going on, it's probably your boy. But besides that, let's go ahead and hit some beats, hit some news, and talk about some things that are, again, been rattling around in my brain since I've been gone. So want to start out with this really cool video that we came across from Game Maker's Toolkit, and it's entitled "Should Designers Listen to Negative Feedback?" And it's a very good video, pretty short, it's like 16 minutes, and it definitely makes some good points when it comes to not so much should you listen to your audience, but in what way should you take your community's feedback and apply it to changes in your game, and also which stuff you should just ignore. And he makes some very good points. There's some very, very salient points in this video, and I encourage anyone that is heavily invested in some type of gaming community, or just a community in general. It's not just video games that have these types of interactions between the people that are either moderating or producing the content or the scene that community orbits. And video games, there's not too big of a difference there, and I think that there's some valuable insight in this video for all sides of that spectrum. Any type of community that you're involved in can definitely benefit from from some of the things that are said in this video. So I definitely would suggest checking it out. And like I said, link will be in the show notes. So moving on to something that I just thought was super freaking cool, and I cannot wait to dive headfirst into this. I have admitted words. It's like I forgot how to talk. I have not dove headfirst into this yet, but I cannot wait to check it out. It is a little piece of unofficial Elite Dangerous universe out there called Fangs. The link will be in the show notes if you want to go and check it out. It is an unofficial Elite Dangerous webcomic by Lee Hutchinson, David Hall, and Jet Tingdahl. So if you have not checked this out, I think the premise of this is amazing. And I really want to give these guys a shout out because it really says something about, you know, the community at large, and really just the monumental brain space of, you know, people that are fans of something that go and just kind of make their original content, or, you know, create content within the sphere of a game universe or a fictional universe that they love. You know what I mean? And it is really, really freaking awesome. I love the aesthetic of it. It has a very like noir aesthetic, and that's how it's described, as a like noir style comic. The description real quick, if I haven't sold you on this, if I haven't sold you on it yet, this will probably do it. We are the few who dare. We brothers and sisters who ride the witch space corridors of Faraway. We turn the wheels of industry, moving the goods that power a heaven-spanning society of worlds. We pilot ships named for snakes, asps, cobras, pythons, anacondas, and on our backs is the tripartite hegemony of man built. We fly, we fight, we trade, we explore. We brave the black under the unblinking gaze of the naked stars. We do it for fortune, for fame, for glory, for the thrill of the hunt, or maybe just because to sit at home on a station is just too ordinary, and we are never that. These are our stories. Now, man, come on. If that doesn't sell you on it, I don't know what will. Right now, they have 3 books and an interlude out. And again, this will be in the show notes. Huge shout out to these guys. I cannot wait to read this. And it's not small. It is not a paltry offering that they have here. The very first book is 167 pages. And mind you, it's just a PDF. You just go and you click on it and you download it and you rock out and you read it. And that is freaking awesome. I cannot wait to check this out. So like I said, Fangs, it's on the internet. It's out there. Go and check it out, folks. So now moving on from fantasy to science, the amazing and quite frankly mind-bogglingly brilliant people over at Canon Research have released their organic scanning guide. So this gives you some tips and tricks and is a basic rough guide for different things that you want to do and look for when you're doing xenobiological scans, right? With Odyssey, a lot of exploration has shifted more from let's go look at pretty planets to let's go discover what's on planets. And along with the new planet tech that I have just recently gotten to experience, because when the update first came out, I was gone. The new planet tech looks amazing to me anyway. And I feel like with Canon putting out this guide, it is going to allow you to jump into those more detailed, more feature-rich planets even deeper. So, you know, they do the basic thing that Canon does, where they provide you almost way too much information, but it's so awesome that they sat down and were like, well, listen, we got to help people out with this. So they let you know what you need as far as equipment, like your FSS, your DSS, your planetary approach suite, you know, the basic stuff that you don't really think about, but someone might not have that on there. Your composition scanner, your Artemis suit, the Canon telemetry equipment. So this one is pretty cool. They've made an plugin extension that will essentially link your scans back to Canon's database. So it will allow it to update in a similar vein to how EDDB updates. So that will help to create a map, if you will, of what things are found on what planets in which systems, so you can help contribute in that way. And I think it's just really cool. It's more people out in the community finding ways to tie individuals together and to create a sense of like participation and, you know, like applicable community involvement in a game that spans a galaxy, you know? So hats off to the folks at Canon. They never cease to amaze me with the just amount of stuff that they put out. It's kind of bonkers to me. So this leads me to my to the kind of the point I wanted to make on the game. And with other stuff going on right now, mind you, I don't have much to talk about as far as like other space games out there right now. I haven't really gotten a chance to play much else. I do want to check out Starbase. This game does look awesome, and I think it has a lot of potential. I think the customization options and the building tools that they allow you in this game are bar none some of the best that I have seen. And the fact that it's made by the guys that made Trine, the developers that made the Trine series, which if you're not familiar, you should go and check this out. It's pretty cool. Trine is kind of like high fantasy. Well, if you're old like I am, you'll be familiar with like the Lost Vikings, and it's kind of along those lines. You know, you have a set group of characters. Each of them has their abilities, and those abilities help the rest of the group to get through scenarios, whether they be combat scenarios or like puzzles, mostly puzzle heavy stuff. But anyway, the guys that made that, now Hard 180, are making basically an open world sci-fi sandbox, and it looks amazing. So I do plan to check out Starbase pretty soon, because I think the game is just, man, it is looking pretty rad. So with that out of the way, I want to get to the topic I've had on the top of my head, simmering, if you will, for a couple days now. So it's not a far-fetched thing to say that a lot of the community was not happy with Odyssey. And I know that this is all water under the bridge as far as, you know, you're sitting there listening to me and being like, well, duh, we have made this known. But I think there's something to be said for people looking for an out, and bear with me here, okay? Now, this is not me pointing fingers at the community and saying, you're a quitter. That's not what this is. But I think when you look at a game like Elite, where people have dedicated so many hours, and like for myself, for example, I have put in over 1,500 hours at this point in this game. And I still love playing it. I still have a good time playing it. But there are people that have twice, 3 times those hours. And I think to an extent, some of those people were kind of wanting a reason to disengage. And it kind of plays into that whole like sunk cost fallacy where, you know, people feel like since they have so many hours invested, they should just keep playing the game. You see this a lot in other MMOs, like World of Warcraft, for example. Now, granted, when the Burning Crusade Cataclysm, not to be mistaken with the actual Cataclysm expansion, but when Burning Crusade came out and so many people got like irritated with the way that the game was going and the direction that Blizzard was taking the game, a lot of people jumped off, but a lot of people stuck with it. And most of that was because for the vanilla version of the game, they felt like they had invested enough time that justified kind of seeing it through, you know? And you could say the same thing for Elite. You could say the same thing for a lot of games. You could say the same thing for Eve. You could say the same thing for any number of MMOs, any game really, where you dedicate a lot of time. And I think in this instance, you're seeing the Burning Crusade effect, as we'll call it, where a lot of people that sunk a lot of time were kind of wanting a reason to disengage. They were wanting a reason to move on to other things or to explore other things, like your No Man's Skies, your Starbases, your Star Citizens. So many stars out there, but they're wanting a reason to kind of to let go of Elite, to let go of the thing that they've invested so much time in, to go on and do something else. Because if they just up and decide to leave one day, it seems like a waste of time to them. And I'm not a psychologist by any stretch of the imagination, but I think there's some truth to this, and I think that there is some credibility to the feeling that, you know, some people had put in imagine putting in 3,000 hours into a thing and feeling like you needed an excuse to leave it. I mean, you know, when we're just talking about entertainment and things like that, that can be a hard hurdle to get over. And I feel like, as much as I hate to say it, Odyssey kind of gave people that out. It gave them, their reasoning for being like, you know what, nah, this isn't the game that I played before and the game that I wanted to play. I'm just kind of done. Because really, when you look at it, overall, it's not that rough of an expansion loss. Granted, expansion to the game, sorry, not expansion loss. It's not that rough of a expansion launch is what I was trying to say. Got my L words mixed up, but I mean, there have been way worse. If you look at like the early days of Rainbow Six Siege, or like I said, Burning Crusade for World of Warcraft, or hell, EverQuest 2, things like that. There have been way worse launches that cost more when you're, adding in inflation and just dollar to dollar comparisons. But like I said, people have been playing Elite for, some people since launch, since 5 years now, 6 years now. And sometimes they don't have it in them to justify leaving themselves. So instead they look for a reason. And I think this has acted as that reason. Now, granted, do I feel like that's going to mean the death of the game? No, not by a long shot. The people that tell you that Elite is dying, or that any game is dying for that matter, are not, they're not correct. And the reason being is that a game is only truly going to die when the developers decide to pull the plug on it. As long as the game is supported in some way, shape, or form, and there's even a fraction of the community that was, even at its peak, like the game will still endure. Like, and I know I've used this example quite a bit in this episode, but World of Warcraft is not even at half of its initial launch player base. In fact, a lot of people have gone over to games like Final Fantasy XIV and other MMOs because they just want a reason to play something else. But on the flip side of that, there are still hundreds of thousands of people playing World of Warcraft still. And that game is almost 20 years old at this point. Now, that game came out in 2004. Think about it. That game is older than the iPhone. That's kind of crazy when you think about it. So, Elite's not dying. None of these games are dying. But that doesn't mean you should feel bad if you want to move on to something else. And that's fine. Like, you don't have to have any excuse. But if you do want to use the excuse, fine. Look, I'm not your dad. I can't tell you what to do. All I can tell you is that if you want to move on to another game, if you want to play Star Citizen, if you want to play Kerbal Space Program until you have a freaking master's degree in rocket science, if you want to go tame weird animals in freaking No Man's Sky, or as Monohive told me, he essentially tamed what looked like a tumbleweed, which I must see this now. But if you want to go play a different game, it's fine. Go play a different game. You don't owe them anything. But if you still want to play and you still want to enjoy the experience, enjoy it. I'm still enjoying Elite immensely. And I'm just kind of making my own fun at this point. And I still think that is, one, it probably says something about me. But two, I think it says something about the game. That it gives me enough freedom to kind of make the fun that I want to make without, having to break the game essentially. But that's the diatribe, the tangent, the brainworm I've had in my head for the past couple weeks. Because while I see a lot of people that have a lot of negative feelings about the game still, even after the updates and things, and there are still a lot of people that are like staunch defenders of both the game and FDev, which I don't 100% agree with. Like, there's no like picking a side here. If you're enjoying the game, play the game. If you're not enjoying the game, go play something else. That's fine. But there's not, you shouldn't have to like defend your point. You don't have to like sit there and be like, well, I'm still playing Elite because this, that, and the other. If you want to play it, play it. If you don't, good luck, citizen. But that is going to do it for this episode of Algorab AM. I know the new format and stuff has gotten a couple people a little shaky. I've heard both good things and some constructive criticism of the new format, but I really like what we're going with here, and I feel like it's going to do us really good going forward. So I appreciate all of you out there for listening. Remember, you can find the show on all the places that you hear your podcasts, whether it be iTunes or Google Play Podcasts, Stitcher. I've used a bunch of dumb jokes and analogies, but if you can find podcast, you can find Algorab AM. You can also check us out over on Twitter. Same thing, Algorab_AM. And yeah, that's it for this week. So I want to thank you very much for listening. I hope you have yourself an amazing week. Fly safe. 07 out.